Добрий день.
Good afternoon. My name is Olga Atamanova, and I'm happy to see you in Ukrainian Media Center. Ukrinform is day 245 of our fight for freedom, and today we will talk about the following issues. At 1300, we will have Mykola Rudik with us, head of the main service center of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and we will talk about the amendments to the legislation on the with regard to the driver license exchange and the services provided by the service centers in the deoccupied territories. At 1430, Vadim Denisenko will join us. He's the executive director of the Ukrainian Institute for the Future, and we'll talk about the narratives spent by Russian propaganda, and we'll talk about the processes going on inside Kremlin. And now we will have Oleksandr Starukh live with us. He's the military governor of Zaporizhzhia region. Mr. Oleksandr, good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine. Good afternoon. Glory to the heroes. Mr. Oleksandr, we know that the Zaporizhzhia region found itself being shelled by the occupants this night. What's the situation? Unfortunately, we are being shelled on a nightly basis in one part or another. Well, more or less the shellings are being attracted to the regional center, to the most densely populated areas, but still there are shellings in Kamyshvatska Gromada, Staropilska. We had about 90 shellings within last night. Unfortunately, about 60 of them hit the objects of critical infrastructure, the residential areas. Two people died and 2 were injured. We had substantial destruction, substantial hits. The situation is complicated, but all the government services use all the necessary steps to provide the population with the necessary aid, the reconstruction efforts, etc. The works are still in process, even at in the areas near which the warfare operations are in place. I'm talking about Gulay-Pole, and there is an effort to evacuate people from those areas, and our troops will need some more time for this. What's the situation with the critical infrastructure? In general, the region was the largest donor of electric power. We have the biggest thermal power station in Europe. You know that now the nuclear power plant is out of operation, as well as thermal power plant. There is a huge deficit of electricity for the time being, and we take all necessary actions to save power. And we have the plans of controlled shutdowns to regulate the power supply capacity, but for the time being we didn't have the shutdowns for residential sector, thanks to our energy regulating authorities. But we will have to impose limitations, to implement limitations for residential areas as well. We cannot stop the industrial facilities because they have the production cycle should not be interrupted. But we will proceed to the rolling power shutdowns in the residential sectors. At the same time, we implement all the necessary actions to improve the operation of the infrastructure. The system operates in a steady and stable manner, and we understand that the enemy can strike again and again, and the situation may change. Mr. Oleksandr, what do you think about the situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant? The situation did not changed dramatically. The plant is out of operation. The employees are under constant pressure, and they find themselves in non-standard situation. Now that we have this dirty bomb, fake stories, where they mentioned, the Russians mentioned that in this dirty bomb the materials from the nuclear waste storage may be used, which in fact is under the control of Russian occupants. And they try to demonstrate the consequences of this nuclear incident, showing the pictures of Energodar and the map. So the situation in Energodar is not easy. The heating season all over Ukraine is about to start. In Energodar, the heating was provided by the nuclear power plant. We were proud by these technologies that we did not have to burn coal or gas for this purpose, but now it turned out to be a negative aspect now that the inoperative nuclear power plant, which means that there will be no heating in the energy producing city. Mr. Oleksandr, we know that the occupants are now fleeing the city. What is the situation there in Energodar? Is it the same as in Kherson with the cases of maraudery? Yeah, maraudery is the constant activity along with kidnapping of people. I want to remind you that in Dniprorudne, which is the coal mine, which is the mining city, the mayor was kidnapped, and now along with the deputy mayor of Energodar, and they are now the hostages of our occupants, suffering constant pressure. They are being pressed to cooperation, and the situation did not improve since then. They're being hostage for more than a month for the time being. People try to evacuate from the area, and we had about 1,500 to 2,000 people leaving the area on a daily basis, and yesterday only 96 people were able to leave the area. However, still thousands of people try to leave Energodar, but the occupants impose certain limitations for the people in terms of evacuation. And these people, who are in fact engineers, the employees of the power plants, they are in fact still hostages of the Russian occupants. As per your estimates, how many people are hostage of the occupants? The exact number is 540 people in the nuclear power plant, out of which 208 people, they are the employees of the nuclear power plant. We were talking about the situation in Vasilivka. Now we have information that the occupants, they set up a boundary there. What's known about this? How many people are in queue for evacuation? Now that we understand that this evacuation became impossible, they started doing this back in September, and they started to impose limitations for the people to leave. They set up a checkpoint, and you remember that there was a strike on Zaporizhzhia on the 30th of September when 32 people died. Today we understand that it was done to limit, to impede the movement of people to the areas controlled by the Ukrainian government, Ukrainian armed forces. Now thousands of people cannot leave due to anti-humane policies imposed by the occupants. Dear colleagues, your questions, please. Good afternoon, Irina Mamchur, Ukrinform. I have two questions. One question is about the heating season. When will it start in Zaporizhzhia? And what's known about the heating season in the temporarily occupied areas besides Energodar you mentioned? Well, the first question, when the temperature falls below 8 degrees centigrade, today the daily temperature does not fall below this figure, and we understand that as soon as it falls below 8 degrees centigrade, and we have an option of switching the network on. Well, Vasilivka, Melitopol, and Dniprorudne, which are being heated by gas, along with Berdansk. There is no gas in these occupied territories, including Tokmak. The heating will be probably provided using fuel like diesel. In other territories, we had the heating facilities subsidized by the government. We procured solid fuel ovens to provide heating to the people in the occupied territories. It's impossible to start the heating season because starting from the beginning of summer there is no gas coming to the area because the gas pipes are being broken. In the regions of Vasilivka, Polohivka, they don't have gas, natural gas, and they also don't have electricity in part of them. We had about 1,000 people live in the area daily until the end of September, but they don't have this opportunity now, unfortunately. Another question is to what extent did the ecological situation deteriorate in the area, because we know that due to the warfare operations, the communications were broken, like canalization, sewage facilities. Is the potable water being brought to the area? Yes, there are two sides to this question. First, ecology. Of course, the war leads to the destruction of all the communications networks. Now we have the facilities, the sewage facilities out of operation, which are on the bank of the Kakhovska water reservoir. The quality of coal and iron ore, which were left in the occupied territories and we don't have access to them. The quality of the air around these operating facilities deteriorated. So, but in fact, we will understand the situation with ecology only after liberation of the areas, when we will know the scale of destruction and changes of land scale and devastation of flora and fauna, change of the biocynotic areas. It's all already left behind. It's all in the past, because due to war, the destruction and devastation is happening on a daily basis. As to the potable water, yes, there are such settlements as Stepanogirsk, Kamyansk, where potable water is being brought on a daily basis. Our legislation, unfortunately, impedes us from forcible evacuation of people. And the people who take part in servicing of the civil infrastructure, they suffer because of this. Like for example, the power line service, repairing services. We have injured personnel, but in fact we need the people to evacuate from these areas, like Gorikhove, because for example there are like 70 children left with their parents there, and I'm inclined I would say that I'm inclined to more extent to amend the legislation, because we have to act harder in this situation, because somebody is afraid, and like they painted a picture for themselves. So, I mean, the civil population, and because of that, our emergency services now they have to risk their lives because of that. We had a small victory a little bit to the north from Gulaipole. We brought generators there so that people could have electricity at least a few hours per day, and we had some money allocated from the regional budget to restore the electricity supply in the area. But in some areas there is no centralized either water supply or power supply. Now we have more questions, please.
Nobuo Kurokawa from Japanese newspaper Sankei. Thank you for the opportunity. You have just mentioned a few things about the problem of this dirty bomb and also the nuclear waste of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plants. That means Russian might be using nuclear waste from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to make a dirty bomb. Is that what you have in your mind?
Ну, я думаю, що це...
I think that this is absurd. We cannot call it another way. The occupants occupied the city of Energodar back in March, on the 3rd of March. So the city was, the war started on the 24th of February, and within a week, all the nuclear waste was still in place, and the nuclear power plant is still occupied by Russia. Starting from that date, they have the units of their armed forces, their Rosatom specialists. They control the situation entirely, and in fact, no single Ukrainian could get, or like to this nuclear waste storage, which is under control, again I emphasize, under the control of Russia. So Ukrainian armed forces or other forces could not get there to steal any waste from there. I'm sorry, I wanted to specify, to detailize. You told about the employees of the emergency services who died. Do you know the figures? Do you have the figures of those, the number of employees who died due to war? I don't have the exact figures, but I know that we had a couple of energy service employees who left for repair works to Horikhovo last week. It was 4 of them, two of them died. I know that one emergency service technician that died during putting out the fire recently, and these cases are not like individual. Mr. Oleksandr, thank you very much for finding time to join us. I will remind you, we had Oleksandr Starukh with us, the military governor of Zaporizhzhia region. Dear colleagues, our briefing will be in 7 minutes. I will remind you, we will have Mykola Rudek with us, the head of main service center of Ministry of Internal Affairs. Stay with us.